Hello everyone, and now I love Mortal Kombat, and even though I am not a fan of Mortal Kombat 11 and everything NetherRealm has done with that game, I still love this franchise. I was introduced into this franchise with Mortal Kombat 9 and would later play Mortal Kombat Deception, Mortal Kombat for the DC universe, Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3, and Mortal Kombat X. And obviously Mortal Kombat 11, but I already mentioned that, so now, out of all of them, Mortal Kombat X is actually my favorite Mortal Kombat game, and I love this game so much, and today I want to talk about why. Now, I will say, I do not like the story of this game, and I will not be defending it. Like, the story sucks. Now, in my opinion, Mortal Kombat X has the best graphics out of every Mortal Kombat game, and it's the best looking Mortal Kombat game. I love how the characters look, like Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Katana, and some of the newer characters like Aaron Black look so awesome. I also love that while you are fighting your character and your opponent, they will get dirty, they will get sweaty all over, like all over them during the fight. And at the end of the fight, they will have more than just blood on them. They'll have like sweat and like dirt all over them. And I really like that detail. Now I know some people have an issue with the fact that Mortal Kombat X doesn't have the same amount of blood and gore, like how it was in MK9, where at the end of the fight, like the character's face would be like half torn off. But I don't really care about that really, and I really think this game still looks great. Also, it's still very bloody and gory with every hit of blood that comes flying out, and with the fatalities, there's still a lot of blood and gore. Like that hasn't changed at all. Now, I love the fatalities in Mortal Kombat, and Mortal Kombat X has some of my favorites. Uh, Fatalities of it, and I just love the fatalities in Mortal Kombat X. They look so awesome and just extremely satisfying to do. I have heard people say that they are too cartoonish. However, to me, fatalities have always been cartoonish. They are supposed to be over the top ways of finishing off your opponent. In the earlier Mortal Kombat game, there was a fatality where I think it was Katana's. It was the kiss of death, where like she kisses them and then they blow up. Like that's not somehow that isn't cartoonish. And the same with Shang Tsung's fatality in MK9. They are supposed to be over the top ways of killing off your opponent in the most over the top and brutal ways, and I love it. And I never get bored of doing the fatalities. Now, one of my favorite things that Mortal Kombat 9 added was the X-ray moves. I love these so much. I hear people complain about them, like how they can be used to get a advantage during battle with the opponent, like with who you're fighting is about to lose, and someone can just use the X-ray and steal the fight. I don't really agree with that, and they say they are boring after a while. I don't agree with this. X-rays are always awesome and so satisfying to use, and they just look amazing. And I like having the ability to use an X-ray and being able to get closer to winning the fight. Like I like if I'm about to lose, being able to use an X-ray and being able to win rather than lose the fight. Really, a big reason I see people hate them is because they say that it's making video games seem more like a movie. Because there's kind of like a sort of a cutscene when you do the X-ray moves, and frankly, I'm just gonna say, so what? So what that there's like a cutscene animation when you do the X-ray moves? Same people who complain about this, they are fine with other games have long cutscenes. It's just like you just don't like that Mortal Kombat's doing it. I love the X-ray moves in Mortal Kombat X, and while I've been talking about these in the background, there would be footage of some of my favorites.
Fiction. Finish him.
Now, Mortal Kombat X introduced some new characters like Aaron Black, Ferrotor, Devora, Kotal Khan, and the Combat Kids, Cassie Cage, Dakita, Jackie Briggs, and Kung Jin. Now, most of these characters I love, especially Aaron Black, who reminds me so much of John Marston from Red Dead Redemption. Now, I know many do not like the Combat Kids, but I personally really like them. Yes, Kung Jin is the worst one of the entire four, but he's still very fun to play as. I honestly really like that characters that we have known for so long, they now have kids and families, like how Johnny and Sonya got together and they had Cassie Cage. Even though, like, if I remember correctly, the Mortal Kombat comic reveals that it was basically just because of a one night stand, which really, like, screw you, NetherRealm. Like, I don't like that Johnny and Sonya had Cassie and only got together because of a one night stand. Like, that, I don't like that. And Jax having Jackie and Kenshi having Takeda, and Kung Jin actually being Kung Lao's cousin. I actually really like this, and they are extremely fun to play. Not Devora, though. Devora is so terrible, I hate her character. Now, I think it's about time I talk about the gameplay, which, in my opinion, Mortal Kombat X has the best gameplay out of any Mortal Kombat game. It is extremely smooth and so much fun. I love how everything feels and how it feels to fight your opponent. And one thing I love is the sound in this game. Whenever you attack someone, it sounds so meaty and you can feel each blow every time. I just love the sound design in this game. Combine this with the Xrays and is easily the best gameplay that Mortal Kombat has ever had. Now, overall, I do not like the story of Mortal Kombat X at all. It is pretty bad and nowhere near as good as MK9's story or even Injustice Gods Among Us. However, the one thing I love that was added into the story was the Revenants. Now, I know many people do not like them. However, I personally love the idea of Liu Kang, the champion of Mortal Kombat, and Kitana being the bad guys, and ruling NetherRealm and going to war with Earthrealm. And like, I just love the idea of Liu Kang, champion Mortal Kombat, Katana being the bad guys, along with many other Earthrealm warriors. I would have loved it if that was the story of MK11, but they did not do that. I love how the Revenants look and how they sound in MKX, and in the story in Mortal Kombat X, they didn't really do much. They mostly just sidekicks to Quan Chi and Shinnok. However, they could have been the main villains in Mortal Kombat 11 and have it be Earthrealm versus NetherRealm, but with the champion of Mortal Kombat actually being the main villain, but they didn't do that. Also, I wish the like base costumes for Kung Lao, Liu Kang, Katana with the Revenant versions, but either way, it's like Revenant's still very cool. Now, overall, I mostly just play the arcade mode of fighting games and not anything else really. I personally really like the ladder endings for each character. Not much I can really say about these other than me really liking them. However, I do not like that in three different endings in this game. It kind of foreshadows that Jax will die by Kano, and then it just never happens in Mortal Kombat 11. It's like you were kind of foreshadowing it that Jax was going to die, but you never did anything with it. Now, the Crypt is basically the in-game store of Mortal Kombat, and personally, I really like that. This version is basically like a first-person adventure mini-game for the Crypt, and I really like this. It's a nice thing to have, like a sort of mini-game in a fighting game like Mortal Kombat. I love Mortal Kombat X, and it is easily my favorite Mortal Kombat game, and it is in my top 20 favorite games ever. Even though the story is not good, in my opinion, most fighting games have terrible story modes. Injustice Gods Among Us is one of the very few exceptions. So, so it's not that big a deal, honestly, that I don't like it since I mostly just play the arcade mode and this game's still extremely fun.